Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the ever-changing world of technology? Tech It Out can help make some sense of it all. Breaking down geek speak into street speak, technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman covers consumer technology each week for every listener. Mark tackles the latest news, reviews, and how-tos to help you understand what's hot, what's not, and why.
Hey everyone, welcome to Tech It Out, episode 243. Hope you're all doing well out there in radio land and in podcast land, however you're tuning into the show, and wherever you are as well. Not sure about you, but April is just flying by for me. All good. Hey, we have a stellar Tech It Out show planned for you today. We're going to start with a solution to finding your lost stuff, and it's a low-tech solution at that. After that, we'll talk sustainable tech for the home in honor of Earth Day on Friday when we chat with tech expert Amber Mack. Any gearheads in the crowd? Well, we're going to learn about the new Cadillac V-Series Blackwing performance vehicle and all the tech it has under the hood for those with the need for speed. And finally, if you've ever wanted to start a podcast, we'll be joined by Steve Fisher from the Lifeslices podcast, and he'll recommend the gear that you need to get going, how to market your podcast on social media, and so on and so forth. All of this and more on an all-new Tech It Out, powered by ASUS for those in search of incredible. I'll tell you more about ASUS shortly, but let's officially get to our first interview with My Property ID Registry. Now, while this is a tech show, sometimes a low-tech solution to a problem is also worth discussing. The problem, in this case, is if your things are lost or stolen and you want to get it back. We're now going to learn about My Property ID Registry, which utilizes a police-developed, FBI-endorsed, and made in the USA strategy called Operation ID. Joining us to explain what it is and how it works is Jon Shelness, founder of My Property ID Registry. Welcome, Jon. Good to chat with you.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me.
Sure. So why don't we dive right in? At a high level, what is My Property ID Registry all about?
I think the easiest way to understand it is it's a private version of the way you register a motor vehicle and license it. In the case of a motor vehicle, the state or your province knows about you and your relationship to that car. In the case of my product, you're marking your property with the equivalent of a miniaturized license plate, but the information about you is private unless you agree to communicate with the finder of your property.
All right. So it's kind of like a license plate for your stuff. So what kind of things are we talking about here?
So primarily it's for things that a thief would target. So the most obvious would be cell phones and laptops, but I put it on my key ring. I have it at home on my television and other computer equipment. Something that if a burglar came into your house and they did a quick walkthrough and they grabbed up everything they could and stuffed it into a backpack, that's what you want to mark primarily.
Got it. So I do love that this seems like a remarkably low-tech solution. How is this more effective, Jon, say, than tracing your devices through an app, like a Find My Phone thing or something like that?
So this is a really important distinction to make. When you use technology, you're using tracking technology, GPS, something that's going through Wi-Fi or through a satellite. And that's distinct from tracing technology, which is relatively unknown, but license plates are the gold standard for tracing technology. So it's really an additional layer of security that if your battery runs out on your device, or if maybe someone takes the battery out, you still have the property marked and you have a record in the cloud of the serial number.
Yeah, good point. Because if somebody lifted your phone and they're a seasoned thief, they know to just turn it off right away or get it off the grid, and it's a lot harder to track that way. So before I ask you about walking us through how it works, this seems to be hinged on people being a good Samaritan, if you will. Like you're not able to track that stolen or missing laptop if no one reaches out to you.
Yes, that's correct. But I think we live in a cynical age, and part of my goal is to restore that trust in our neighbor. And it's my opinion that over 95% of people who find something would like to return it if they could. This is cleaning crews on airlines, law enforcement professionals, airport authorities, neighbors, people walking their dogs. If they find an item that they think is stolen, or they find a set of keys that have been dropped with one of my tags on it, they can just go to the internet, enter that number on my website, and the owner of that tag will receive an email. but it does not reveal any personal information about either party. Just gives a route for people to connect and return stolen or lost property.
Got it. So with that in mind, walk us through how it works if you can, including the part where someone finds an iPhone in the grass and they want to return it to you, how that all works. So the first step is to go to your website and order those tags.
That's correct. And it really is like a miniaturized license plate. When you go to My Property ID Registry, when you order my product, you have to enter your mailing address and your email address into the website before you submit the order. When the tags are mailed to you, the numbers on those tags are already associated with your email and your mailing address. And that is what the police call chain of custody, which means that when that tag arrives in the mail, it already is linked to you. And so now you do the next step, which is apply one of those tags to, say, your cell phone, and then you log into your privacy protected account and enter the make, model, and serial number of that item. So if that item turns up anywhere in the United States, anywhere on the planet, either in the hands of a Good Samaritan or law enforcement, there is an opportunity for them to return it. Now, there's two ways to return the product. If the tag has not been removed and a Good Samaritan finds it, they go to my website to the found page at My Property ID Registry, and they enter the number on that found page, and the email associated with that number will direct a message to the rightful owner. But as your listeners know, that if you're a victim of a crime, you want to file a crime report. And the first question the police will ask you, I kid you not whether you have a video camera or whether you have an alarm system, they want the serial numbers. And you will be able to tell them, where do you want me to email them? And then you can just log into your system and you can email the affected items to the police.
Yeah, that's a good secondary advantage to your platform, it seems, because otherwise no one's going to take the time to log their serial number until it's too late. You don't have that device anymore. So that's actually smart. We are chatting with Jon Shelness, founder of My Property ID Registry. This is a welcomed low-tech solution to finding devices or anything really that has been misplaced or stolen. So you don't need a QR code or anything like that. It's just a number. So if someone finds your device and it's got the ID label on there, they just go to the website that's also on that tag and then they just type in the number.
That's correct. You use the most advanced technology there is, your human eye.
And you said some of the things that people put these on are electronics and all that, but from what I understand, based on a recent talk you just gave, this also includes farm equipment.
The advantage of this strategy is because it's not electronic, which requires delicate equipment and a source of power. It's very inexpensive. And as a result, it can be used anywhere at any time, no matter how remote you are. So if you are a rancher in the middle of Wyoming or Alberta, you can apply these tags or etch. I have another product, which is an etchable ID, and you can etch this into your property. And if it's recovered by a Good Samaritan or law enforcement, it can be returned. And so it really is designed for power tools, yard equipment, items you might keep in your car. And then the most important part is that you have to put a warning up that lets people know that the property is marked, and I provide warning signs as well.
Oh, and where would you put that, like in your window?
You put it on your window, you put it on your garden shed, you put it in a car window, you put it on a basement window, yes. It's important to understand that while consumers may think that cameras and alarm systems are effective, the police will tell you that the thing that criminals are the most fearful of is property that can be traced back to the rightful owner, because that will lead to a sure conviction. So if your property is marked and you have a record of the serial numbers and you post a warning sign that tells a criminal that you're doing that, the chances that they come in and steal your property is much lower.
And I did see on your website that even if the ID labels are removed, when you file a police report, the serial numbers are entered into the FBI's National Crime Information Center in the US, which is really cool. All right, Jon, so why don't we wrap up with how much it costs and what comes in your security kit?
Sure. So the most important thing about my security kit is it's a one-time cost. There are no hidden fees. There's never a re-registration. You pay for it once and then that's it. So you're paying per tag. And as you order more, the price per tag comes down. So it's $39 for 10 tags, $59 for 20 tags, $109 for 50 tags, and $189 for 100 tags. And it's also important to note that if you come back a year later and add another set of tags to your account, the next numbers in the queue will just be added to your account. Just like a license plate, you might have a completely different license plate than you had on your older model car.
Okay, got it.
So the security kit comes with warning signs for doors and windows and with tags that are pre-assigned to you. So you have the tags, the warning signs, and then an instruction sheet. And then all of it is tied to an online database where you enter the make, model, and serial number.
All right. And the website again, John?
MyPropertyIDRegistry.com.
All right. MyPropertyIDRegistry.com. Jon Shelness has been our guest. Hey, thanks so much for carving out some time to chat. This seems very helpful to our listeners, regardless of what they're putting those ID labels on. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Mark. I really appreciate it.
Before we continue, a huge thank you to ASUS, the title sponsor on this program. ASUS creates technology for today and tomorrow's smart life, and that includes its line of award-winning laptops. Check them out at asus.com/US/radio. That's asus.com/US/radio. When we return on Tech It Out, we're going to catch up with tech expert Amber Mack to talk sustainable tech in light of Earth Day. We'll be right back.
Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want. Find the Tech It Out podcast at iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. Earth Day was on Friday, April 22nd, of course, and so it's a perfect time to learn about making sustainable choices for your home and the planet. Joining us to chat about 5 new green-friendly tech tips, tools, and products with a focus on a better future, we're joined by tech entrepreneur extraordinaire, Amber Mack. You know, Amber, it's funny, I always have to come up with a different way to introduce you. You're on the show so much and you do so many things. I hope that was okay.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, thank you so much for carving out some time to chat with us. So why don't we start with saving energy with a smart thermostat?
Yeah, my first pick is the ecobee smart thermostat with voice control, which is obviously, so important in this day and age in terms of being able to have a thermostat that helps you save money. So a couple things that are great about this. It adapts to your routine over time, so it helps you save energy costs over time. In fact, they have some really good data around this. It can help users save up to 26% on annual heating and cooling costs, which is significant. There's a bunch of other features. The other one I wanted to mention was Eco Plus, which is a suite of features that basically means that your smart thermostat from ecobee can basically automatically heat or cool when electricity is cheaper and cleaner. So you see the level, Mark, of intelligence built into a product like this that is, good for your pocketbook, good for the planet.
And unlike some of the other Wi-Fi enabled thermostats, the ecobee family always works with these optional little sensors that you can put in different rooms. So it's got like room by room occupancy and control. So I really like that. We should, Amber, tell our listeners that for prices for all these products, including the ecobee smart thermostat, it's going to be all at your website, ambermack.com.
You got it. Yeah, you can head on over there and get your local pricing.
And then next, we often don't think about TVs, these big, beautiful TVs with energy in the same sort of breath. But there's a new product from Samsung that may break the mold.
Yeah, so I have this. I've been testing it out in my studio right now. It's the Samsung Neo QLED 8K TV. So gorgeous picture. I mean, we all know, how stunning it is to watch one of these 8K televisions. But I wanted to mention as well that there are a few things that they've done and announced over the past few months. This eco-conscious TV packaging. So they're using 90% less ink and no staples in the packaging, so it's more easily recycled. And they also have a solar cell remote, which is battery free, again, helping to prevent battery waste. And the TV and remote are made from recycled plastics. And Mark, you probably saw their announcement. This is another interesting point that they made, that all Samsung TVs by 2025, in fact, will operate on near zero power in standby mode. So that's another important thing when we talk about energy savings.
Yeah, I've written so many articles, Amber, about quote unquote vampire power or standby power or phantom power. It goes by different names, but this is when your appliances and consumer electronics products like televisions still consume quite a bit of energy when they're plugged into the wall, even even when they're not turned on. And that could really impact your monthly utility bill.
Yeah, up to 10% of all energy in the house,
right.
in fact, is phantom power. So it's a pretty significant amount and something to really think consciously about.
One tech company that has really taken sustainability seriously is HP. They've really prioritized that, and I applaud them for that. And I think you have a printer from them.
Yeah, so this is the HP Envy Inspire printer. I mean, they have a line of printers that are all great, but you're exactly right. I actually didn't know a lot about their sustainability efforts over the past few years. And then I started looking to see how many awards they have won, in fact, focusing on sustainability and keeping that at the core of their business. So a few quick things. Recycled content is what they use for 100% of their HP toner cartridges. Their HP Instant Ink subscription uses less packaging. That's that great subscription. I know you've talked about it before, where you can automatically get sent ink cartridges when you're running low. And what's great about this too is they'll send you bags so you can recycle your older cartridges as well.
We are joined by tech entrepreneur extraordinaire, Amber Mack. She's a frequent guest on this program, and she's a dear friend and colleague. And it's always great to chat with her. This time, we're celebrating Earth Day, which just took place on Friday, and some of the better tech solutions for your home that embrace sustainability. With that in mind, I talked about Vampire Power earlier. I know you've got an Eve Energy power strip that you wanted to chat about.
Yeah, so this is focused on that exact problem. So as we talked about before, many products in standby mode, they could account for up to 10% of household energy use, so pretty significant. Eve Energy Strip allows you to plug in, small appliances, any device you may want to plug in, up to 3 in this energy strip. And within the app, you can see how much power each of those devices is using in standby mode. And then you can create schedules to ensure, again, you're using only power that you need, so they actually turn off. And in fact, Mark, you'll love this. You probably already know this, but you can turn off each of the items sort of individually. If you want one to stay on like a lamp, you can turn off another item. So unlike typical, cheaper power strips where you have to turn everything on and off at once, this allows you to have individual access, all of this through the app. So it's really slick. And again, a really simple product to be able to focus on energy savings.
Mm-hmm. Again, that's called the Eve Energy Strip. Speaking of power, let's end off on power from the sun with a company called Goal Zero.
Yes. Obviously solar power is just getting more and more popular. So this is a product called the Goal Zero Nomad 10 and the Venture 35 Solar Kit. So you can think about it like this. It allows you to basically charge up this little battery pack using a small solar panel that you can fit into a backpack, take anywhere with you. In up to 3 hours, you can get a full charge in the battery pack. And that means you can charge a couple of small items, like it could be your phone, it could be a headlamp.
Wireless earbuds.
Yeah, wireless earbuds. I think about this as kind of zero footprint, right? I think we're thinking about this more often, and solar power is a great way to go.
And again, for all of these products from HP, Goal Zero, Ecobee, Samsung, and Eve Systems, you can just go to ambermac.com. Always great to chat with you, Amber. I hope you had a fun Earth Day week, and I look forward to chatting with you again. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on the show, Mark.
When we return on Tech It Out, we're going to catch up with Cadillac to learn about its V-Series Blackwing performance vehicle and the tech it has under the hood. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Want to follow Mark? Google him. Mark with a C and Saltzman with a Z. Breaking down geek speak into street speak. This is Tech It Out. Tech It Out with technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Tech It Out. We talk about all kinds of tech and innovation on this show, of course, and what's powering your next vehicle is no exception. Cadillac has embraced technology in a big way over the years, and this time around, we're going to talk performance and the V-Series Blackwing. Joining us on the line to chat is Chad Christensen, Engineering Group Manager at General Motors and former Lead Development Engineer for V-Series Blackwing. Welcome, Chad. Good to chat with you.
Thanks, Mark. Good to chat with you as well. Thanks for having me.
Sure thing. Now, before we talk about V-Series Blackwing, chat with us about Cadillac and innovation. As I mentioned in my introduction, it seems tech has always been a hallmark of the Cadillac brand since it debuted, 120 years ago?
Yeah, 120 years. And absolutely. Cadillac has a long history of pushing the boundaries of technology and innovation. Just a few examples I want to share with you.
Sure.
Back in 1914, the first mass-produced V8 was actually in a Cadillac. Also, the electric starter back in 1912 first showed up on a a Cadillac. So a lot of really great innovations that have benefited the automotive industry going forward. A little bit more recently, the innovation of the night vision technology in 2000 showed up on Cadillac. And then more recently, one of our first implementations of the adaptive MR magnetic ride control was on Cadillac as well in 2002, and we still use that today.
Mm-hmm. Is that super comfortable, like gliding-like experience that Cadillac offers? Your secret sauce, if you will?
It's part of it. It's a big enabler for that. Secret sauce.
Awesome. All right. So let's now hear about the V-Series Blackwing. What's it all about?
Yeah, so V-Series Blackwing represents the pinnacle of performance, technology, and craftsmanship from Cadillac. The CT4V Blackwing and the CT5V Blackwing that were introduced last year are the most capable and boldest expressions of those qualities that we offer. The intent really and the mission is to deliver the best driving experience possible for the customer.
Okay, because this is a tech show, talk to us about some of the technology under the hood tied to performance.
Sure. Yeah, we could spend a lot of time talking about all the technology packed into both of these vehicles. But to name a few that I think really speak to what the car is capable of. First of all, as we mentioned here earlier, MR, magnetic ride control performance. MR 4.0 is what we have on these vehicles. It's the latest generation of our magnetic ride control. It's the world's fastest reacting adaptive suspension. It reads the road about 1,000 times every second and adjusts accordingly. We have two incredible transmissions, a 6-speed manual and a 10-speed automatic, a reconfigurable digital gauge cluster on both vehicles, and that's some really powerful driving modes that integrate all of those features and allow the customer or the driver to tailor the driving experience based on their preferences and their road conditions.
And what does transient roll control mean, and active pitch and active dive control? Can you explain that in plain English?
Sure. Those are all part of the magnetic ride control that we as engineers use to tailor the ride performance and the handling performance of the vehicle. And all those features, along with the hardware that's on the car, really allow us to give the car a kind of a dual personality performance where you can have both the comfort on the road and the performance on the track.
Oh, cool. And what's performance traction management, which from what I understand is a GM exclusive?
Yeah, performance traction management. We call it PTM for short. What it does is it integrates the traction control, stability control, magnetic ride control, and the electronic limited slip differential to provide competition spec traction and stability controls. It's got 5 different modes, so it's very customizable based on the driver's comfort level with the vehicle, the track that they're on, with the environmental conditions. It's really very flexible and a really excellent driver's tool.
And when you mention dual personality, is that the difference between performance traction management or PTM and what's called competitive modes?
Yeah, the PTM really shines on the track. It's just really where it's most beneficial because it allows the vehicle to optimize traction. And again, it's tailored based on the different conditions. The competitive modes or the driving modes, they're a little bit more apparent on the road. They're also apparent on the track, but they're a little bit more apparent on the road, and it gives the driver, again, the ability to really tailor the car and set the settings up to what they want.
All right. Now, Chad, really dumb question. You keep referencing the track, but just to be clear, the V-Series Blackwing is a vehicle you can drive on the road, but literally can be used on a track as well for that obviously smaller portion of the consumer base that would want to do this, if you can clarify.
Yeah, some of them do. So we do, for those customers, we spend a lot of time making sure the car is robust and capable for them. But one of the validation tests we do is called the 24-hour test. So we'll put the car on the track for an accumulated 24 hours. And the only thing we're really allowed to do is change tires, brakes, and engine oil. And the car has to survive those 24 hours of driving for us driving as fast as we possibly can.
Now, I own a Cadillac CT6 because I wanted a super comfortable, pampered ride, if you will, with a ton of amenities. But the V-Series Blackwing obviously is for those who want power and performance.
It certainly does serve those customers, right? But V-Series Blackwing is really a zero compromise performance luxury experience. Thanks to the technologies that we talked about, like MR 4.0, V-Series Blackwings are able to go from a very comfortable luxury car performance on the road to a track-bred performance car at the flip of a switch. But while the performance of both, we talk a lot about that, but and the performance of both the CT4V Blackwing and the CT5V Blackwing tend to get all the headlines. The technology in the car is just as critical, delivering luxury car ride and cabin comfort that our customers expect as well.
All right, we're going to get to those cabin comforts in a moment, but we are chatting with Chad Christensen. He's engineering group manager at GM. And and former lead development engineer for the V-Series Blackwing family of vehicles that we're learning about today. Now, Chad, we talked about the tech under the hood. Now let's slip into the cabin. What can drivers expect, beginning with the infotainment system?
Yeah, the cabin of these vehicles, Mark, is really a great place to spend some time. Both vehicles feature expertly tailored AKG audio systems. They're both tuned independently for CT4 or CT5V Blackwing.
Awesome.
So they sound fantastic. In the CT4, you get 15 speakers with that system. The CT5 has 16 speakers. Also, in addition, we have all-new performance seats in both vehicles. They are available with heat, ventilation, and massage, and as well 18-way adjustability, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, as well as a V Blackwing specific performance steering wheel with carbon fiber accents. Looks beautiful and very functional as well. We have beautiful intuitive controls on touchscreen and the steering wheel, so the controls are always at the hands of the driver. And both vehicles are also available with our performance data recorder with a fully integrated microphone and video, along with an overlay of important vehicle parameters.
And speaking of connectivity, Chad, does this vehicle support the My Cadillac app?
Definitely does, yes.
Cool. Yes, I use the My Cadillac app to remotely start and stop and lock and unlock my vehicle. I can check fuel levels and all that. I can even use my voice with a smart speaker to start the car, which I think is great in the winter months. All right, Chad, why don't we end off on price? Is the V-Series Blackwing family of vehicles available now? And if so, how much do they start at?
Yep, it is available. Anyone interested in purchasing a V-Series Blackwing should speak with their nearest Cadillac dealer to learn more. Pricing begins at $59,990 for the CT4V Blackwing and $84,990 for the CT5V Blackwing.
And is there a website where they can see it in action?
Absolutely. Cadillac.com. Tons of information out there.
All right. Cadillac.com to learn about the V-Series Blackwing. Thank you so much for your time, Chad. Thanks for carving out a few minutes to chat with us, and have a great rest of your spring. All the best.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. A pleasure to chat with you as well.
Hey, have you ever thought about getting into podcasting? We'll learn how when we return with Steve Fisher from the Lifeslices podcast. Stay with us.
Breaking down geek speak into street speak. Check it out. Hosted by Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Tech It Out on the Radio America Network, powered by ASUS, the company that creates technology for today and tomorrow's smart life, including its line of award-winning laptops and desktops, accessories like monitors, keyboards, and mice, mobile tech like smartphones, smartwatches, and tablets, and much more. For those in search of incredible, visit asus.com/US/radio for more info. That's asus.com/US/radio. Have you ever thought of launching your own podcast? Have a good idea for one, but not sure what gear you need to start? Well, a couple of months back, we had Amanda Cupido on the show, who authored a book called Let's Talk Podcasting. And now we're going to chat with Steve Fisher, the host of Lifeslices, a podcast that searches the world for intriguing people doing interesting things. And Steve has some tips to getting on the podcast bandwagon. Welcome, Steve. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mark. It's good to be here.
Now, before we talk about Lifeslices and some tips to wannabe podcasters, or even podcasters who are doing their thing right now, but maybe could level up their abilities a bit, let's share with our listeners how I know you.
Do you know me?
I do know you.
Have we ever met?
I wrote for you. I'll tell our listeners. I'm being cheeky, but you're obviously not taking the bait. Steve Fisher was my editor at Costco Connection magazine, one of the most read magazines in the U.S.
I believe we were like number 2. It was second only to Good Housekeeping or something.
You're a fantastic editor, and you recently retired from that publication and now are doubling down on podcasting, which I think is fantastic with Lifeslices. And you were nice enough to have me on the show, so thanks for that.
Thank you for being there.
But I do miss working with you as a freelance writer. Thanks for carving out some time to chat, Steve. So without further ado, tell us about Lifeslices. What's the podcast all about?
Lifeslices is really based on kind of the work I was doing at Costco on the Costco Connection, interviewing people. And I always enjoyed interviewing real people more than celebrities. I've interviewed my share of celebrities for cover stories, and I always found the average person was much more interesting. But I try to find people who are doing things that aren't necessarily in the spotlight.
Right. So you've had, from what I can see, genealogists and audiobook narrators to pop culture critics. A lot of fun. It's the whole gamut.
Oh, yeah. And I found this young woman, Dr. Maya Warren, who's an ice cream scientist. So she spends her days creating new ice cream flavors for different clients, which I said, wow, that's a great job. I mean, if I wasn't doing the podcast, I might want to do that instead. Treasure hunters, there were a couple of guys, actually, one in Canada, one in California, who go out and find treasures with their little equipment and help people retrieve lost items.
Oh, cool.
They don't do it for any monetary gain. They just do it to help people.
Wow.
My very first guests on Lifeslices were a couple who were, at the time, lighthouse keepers in Canada. So they lived by themselves on this little island, just running this lighthouse.
Was it in Newfoundland?
It was not. It was in off British Columbia.
Oh, the other side. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's a fascinating podcast, Lifeslices. And as I said off the top, you search for intriguing people to interview. So I don't know how I got on there, but thanks nonetheless. So, but all kidding aside, isn't it amazing, Steve, how anyone could host a podcast today? You're not, like when I started in the 90s on the radio, I was at the mercy of a station to give me my own show.
Right. Exactly. I started in radio too many moons ago, and podcasting is the great equalizer. Anybody and anyone with a computer can do a podcast. Actually, you probably don't even need a computer. You could probably do it with a cell phone.
Yeah, that is true.
And a lot of people do. Your quality of the podcast might vary, but anybody can do it. You just have to have an idea.
And I wasn't going to ask you about gear just yet, but you just need something to record your voice. Right. And what else?
Right. And actually, there are a lot of apps that are voice recorders.
Yeah.
I don't know quite how you edit it, but the simple way is to have a computer, to have a microphone, and to have a connection to other people. Some people do in-person podcasts, so you have to have multiple microphones set up. And some, like I do, mine remotely, so people just have to have a mic on their end.
And how do you record the interviews? What software do you use?
I do all my recording on Zoom.
Yeah, sure.
And then I edit in Audacity.
So just like me, I do interviews like we are right now over Zoom, audio only. There are video podcasts, we should remind our listeners.
Yes.
But we're talking primarily audio podcasts today. And then I use Audacity, which is free editing software that I sort of self-taught myself how to use. It's quite intuitive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I did. When I this is my third podcast. The first one, I had a partner, and he knew how to do editing on Audacity, so he did all the editing. We just recorded, and next thing I know, the podcast is online. The second one, I had a different partner. My first partner passed away, unfortunately. And the second partner had no interest in learning to edit. So I taught myself Audacity. Plenty of tutorials online. You can figure it out. And now I do it all myself. I got rid of the second partner, and I said, I don't even need him to talk. I can talk myself.
Now, Steve, I don't upload my own podcasts. I'm fortunate to have a company, Radio America, that manages it for me. Talk to us about that process. Like once you've got this recording, this interview with somebody, or a podcast doesn't even have to be an interview. It could just be one person chatting,
right,
or what have you. So how do you upload it and like to the likes of Spotify and Apple and Google and Amazon Audible, all that?
Well, it's very easy. I use a podcast host called Podbean, and Podbean has, and most podcast hosts do have, easy ways to immediately share with other sites. So once you set it up, and you set up your Apple connection, you set up your Google connection, you set up all these things, and then all you have to do is upload your podcast, and the podcast hosts distributes it to all these other services.
When we return on Tech It Out, more with Steve Fisher, host of the Lifeslices podcast, on his tips on starting a podcast from scratch, the gear you need, and a lot more. We'll be right back with more Tech It Out.
Follow Mark Saltzman on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want.
We are chatting with Steve Fisher, host of Lifeslices, a podcast that searches the world for intriguing people doing interesting things. He's joining us today to chat about Lifeslices, but also advice on starting your podcast. And with that in mind, what would be the first piece of advice you'd give someone listening right now that's been on the fence about hosting their own podcast?
Very first piece of advice would be, what is your show?
Yeah.
What do you want to do? And what makes you unique from others? Because I think we determined the other day in a chat that there were millions of podcasts.
Yep.
And it's growing by day. Everybody and his brother are doing a podcast. And I'm sure some sisters too. But the thing is, what do you want to do? Why do you want to podcast? What is your regularity going to be? So there's a lot of things to figure out before you even think about equipment and how you're going to put this thing together. It's like, what is the show going to be? How are you going to develop it? If you're going to have guests, how are you going to get those guests? Who are those guests going to be? How are you going to vet them? How long is your show going to be? How often? One of the things to podcasting is consistency. So if you're not prepared to do it every day, which most people aren't, because that's quite a chore. Are you going to do once a week? Are you going to do once a month? Are you going to do 3 times a year? There are no set parameters. That's what's great about podcasting. You figure it out. Unless you have a sponsor telling you how often they're going to pay you and how often you have to deliver something, it's up to you.
And that brings up another good point. How are you going to monetize that podcast? And often that could take months or years until you get the following to justify someone investing in you, right?
I remember we actually did a story at The Connection about influencers.
Yeah.
And the general rule of thumb was it takes 2 years to develop even a modest following.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of competition.
And to even consider monetizing. I am not monetized yet on my podcast. I'm waiting until I have a certain number. I have a number in mind, and when I hit that number, then I will reach out and try to get sponsors.
The number you're referring to is the number of listeners per week, right?
Right.
Yeah, got it.
Right.
Okay.
Or a number of downloads.
Sure.
Because
you don't mean dollar number. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, just numbers of ears listening.
Okay.
Sets of ears. There can be 2 individual ears per person, but I don't count it that way.
Now, Steve, some people think that you need to be young to start a podcast, but I think both of us are examples of podcasters who aren't exactly spring chickens, let's say. It doesn't really matter how old you are, right?
Exactly. I'm 142, and
that's in dog years.
I still podcast.
No, but you are retired. I did hint off the top. You retired from your editing.
I retired from Costco. I didn't retire from my life's work, which is entertainment industry and podcasting and writing. That stuff carries on.
Before we wrap up, Steve, anything you've learned since hosting Lifeslices that, should you do it all over again, that you would avoid?
I would say, first of all, don't go into it with any overblown expectations that you're going to get X number of subscribers from day one.
You may hear some crickets for a while.
Right, exactly. It's going to take a while, and it's work. I've had people say to me, wow, this is a lot of work. It's a lot of work if you're serious about it, but if you're trying to develop an audience, stick with it. And also realize doing the podcast is only one part of it. Promoting it becomes a really big piece of the cake. And that means constant work on social media and reaching out to, I just recently started a TikTok account. Never thought I'd see myself on TikTok. But
awesome.
If you want to try to get the ears, and I don't consider my show for any one demographic group. So I think it's anyone who's interested in finding out interesting things that are going on in the world would do well to listen to Lifeslices and learn about some fascinating people and fascinating advancements in science and entertainment in all kinds of things, pop culture. So I don't limit myself, but I also know that it is a slog.
It sure is. But if you love it and you enjoy it, which is really what it's all about, then go for it. And don't be discouraged, I'd add, as we wrap up. Even if the topic that you want to chat about, be it, I don't know, hockey, gardening, whatever, has been done by so many other podcasters. There's room for everybody.
Exactly. Don't worry about whether it's being done by someone else, because everybody's different. You are unique and you have something to bring to the table, and go with that, even if 2,000 other people are doing the same thing.
Yeah, great tip. And then tell us how to subscribe to Lifeslices.
Lifeslices can be found anywhere that there is a podcast store available. Apple, Google, LinkedIn, TuneIn, everywhere. My regular host is Podbean, so you can go to lifeslices.podbean.com and find it there and subscribe and like it. And same on Facebook and Twitter and everywhere fine podcasts can be found.
And Lifeslices is one word. Steve Fisher, great to chat with you. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, Mark.
And thank you for tuning in to Tech It Out this hour. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you to ASUS, the title sponsor, as well as Western Digital and SanDisk for their extraordinary external drives for backing up all your important info. westerndigital.com has more. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. We'll chat with you next time for another episode of Tech It Out. Bye-bye for now.